You're listening to the Custom Built Podcast. In today's episode, going to talk about pivoting in your life, your business, your relationships, every aspect, and what pivoting actually means versus what it's not. So stay tuned. Every time you pivot, you're choosing alignment over autopilot. You're choosing what feels right versus what's no longer working for you. And pivots can be big, they could be small, and it could be everything in between. So a pivot doesn't mean failure. It doesn't mean you're flaky, or it doesn't mean that you're inconsistent or flaky and not reliable. What pivoting actually means is that you're growing. Pivoting always comes after growth. And I say this because think about all the times that you've had to pivot in your life. Did you pivot because it was no choice, or did you pivot because you're like, you know what? I know I said I was going to do this, but I see a better path and it's this way. And so you just do a little pivot. And that I want to make sure that we're all super aware of, because I am somebody who used to call myself like a professional job hopper. And what I actually am is a professional quitter. And I'm really proud to say that, because it took me a long time to really feel good about that and understand what it actually meant for me. But I just remember this one time my mom's like, "Why don't you just stay with a job for once?" Because I'm notorious for staying at a job for about 2 years, and then I'm like, gotta go. And I didn't really have an answer, and it stuck with me for a long time, and it made me really feel not so great, or just unreliable as an employee, or like what that's going to look like on my resume. And what I can say now, it was a good thing, because now that I recognize it and now that I see what it is, and now I'm prepared if somebody asks me a question like this again, is that I'm not a professional job hopper. What I'm doing is I get to this 2 year mark in a job, and I know if I'm going to be able to grow, or if this is going to help me anymore in my growth, and personally and professionally, and if I have a future in this position. And most of the time, my resume will show, no, I'm not. And I don't feel good staying stagnant. That's not something that ever works for me. So it might look like I'm being inconsistent and that I'm not able to show up and be with a job. But what's actually happening is I know my worth and I know what's important to me. And what's important to me is growth. And that's professionally, personally, always there's growth. Okay. And so when it came down to when I was ready to quit my job and go after my business, right? It was clear to me that I would be in this very same exact spot if I stayed in my job. I would be in the same exact spot a year from then. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it knowing how much potential that I have and what I have to give. And I knew that I could still learn. I can still learn professionally, and I could still, I'm always learning personally. I'm always trying to grow. I'm always looking into other ways that I can expand who I am, so I can really just be living this life that is so fulfilling, that's so in line with my soul's journey. And so every time I pivot, I see this, right? And I get a little worried when I'm like, I'm going to do this one thing, and then I shift and I do something different, and I get in my head about it. I get worried what people are going to say or think, and think I don't hold my word. But what I'm actually doing is holding my word to myself. This like self secret promise that I haven't even been completely aware of. It's like my soul made this agreement before I even came to this earth, and every time I make those changes, it either feels right, or I'm like, wait, that wasn't the right move. And let's talk about that for a moment. Sometimes we pivot and it's not the right move, but then we get a little bit more some clarity, right, from this pivot, and we know where we need to pivot again. So for me, my most recent pivot is growing and starting and really going into another business. And it came after I passed my residential builder's license here in South Carolina. So your girl is officially a licensed builder here in South Carolina. And my intention when I went after my builder's license wasn't necessarily to be a builder. In fact, I had zero desire to do so. But when I got my license and in the anticipation of waiting for it to come, I started getting this excitement of how I can help people more than what I plan on doing through Katie Go. And so, Katie Go really came from a place of how can I help homeowners get ready for home renovation? How can I help them create their homes to be their sanctuaries, to be the vision, to really reflect who they are, who they're becoming, and also making sure that it's functional for them and their families, right? And I was having a really hard time struggling with how to describe this to people. And I'm seeing it come full circle now. And I see it come full circle because now, with conjunction to Katie Go, I have Copper Lantern Homes. And Copper Lantern Homes is going to just bring it, again, full circle. So, as a home builder, not only am I in the field and getting, again, that real life experience and that real, like, live feedback through these builds so I can continue to help homeowners in different ways and in different needs and different things that arise. But I'm also learning, I'm helping, and ultimately I get to do everything that I love to do all in one, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. And I think that's what I thought for a while, was it needs to look a certain way. And every time I get this idea that it's going to be this, something happens, something comes into my line of sight, and I'm like, no, wait, no, it can actually look like this. It could be this and that. And there's just no limit to what I can be and what I can offer in my realms of the things I love to share and show up in my acts of service, right? And for me, my act of service is helping homeowners make their homes theirs, uniquely, truly theirs, because we all are unique and we all have our own needs and we're not all the same. And our homes shouldn't be the same. Our homes really need, I think they truly need to reflect who we are and the things that we love and cherish. And it shows in a way our values. If you go into someone's house, you might be able to look around and just really get an idea of what they value the most. I mean, think about like when you go home to like your parents' house or, some family and it says family and all, you have like all the tchotchkes of like their family photos and just like family emblems and all this stuff, right? Like, they value their family over almost everything else, right? And that is so special because they're showing you through their home and through what they're presenting. And that is what home means to me, is just how it reflects who you are. Home always starts within. And so these pivots, I know I've pivoted a little bit in what I'm saying, but when you make these changes, when you make these alignments within and you find this, everything else falls into place. Home always starts within. And that really comes down to doing your home, like your own self-reflection and getting real and understanding what you value, what you expect, and who you want to be. And when you understand that, everything else starts to make sense. You start to make more sense in how you show up in your professional life, and then you start to show up a little different in your family life, in your personal life, and who you are. And then your home starts to adjust because maybe you have some furniture or paint or decor that fit who you were before, and now it doesn't fit who you are now. And maybe it won't fit who you are in 5 years from now. But that's what's the beauty of pivoting and figuring out as you get to know yourself more, as you get to understand who you are and the things that come available to you that are ready to come to, that's available for you now, when for me, again, this is all coming full circle because when I was just a kid, I thought I was going to be an interior designer. I thought, hands down, this is what I'm going to do. And it led me down a lot of different paths, but ultimately when I went for my master's degree in interior design, that I knew that wasn't the only thing I need to do. I love interior design. I love interior architecture and figuring out homes, right? And I knew that interior design, like going into that profession, wasn't going to be it. And so I didn't follow that profession. I didn't go that route. Instead, I took project managing and I took the route of construction, and it's a little bit different, but it all comes back full circle because now, again, with Copper Lantern Homes, I get to offer the design, I get to offer the construction, and I also get to help homeowners get really real and understand what it is that they want in their homes. And so my pivot is like, I kind of, use the analogy in basketball, but I'm going to be honest, basketball is not my sport. I was never very good at it, but the way I picture it is if you're dribbling the ball down the court and a defender comes up on you, you take the ball, you pivot, and you change directions, but you're taking the ball with you. And I see that as, whatever it is that you're working on, but it needs to shift or change, you can take it and go. And the ball is the metaphor there. So, and your body is the actual movement and the action that you're taking. So you take the ball, you pivot, and you shift and you go another direction. And so it's a pivot and go, and it's a way that's like a smaller change, right? Those are like those little changes that can make a really big difference, a big impact on your life, but you're still doing it. And you're doing it if it feels a little scary, but it also is very exciting. You know that this feels more in alignment with what you're doing, and you're not afraid to go after it. Now, you might feel a little scared to do it because your ego's getting in the way. Your ego's telling you all the ways that this isn't going to work. You might be getting chatter from other people that are important in your life who might not understand the vision, but you have to drown all that out if you want to get clear and understand what it is that you are going after, if you want to know if it's real for you or not. Complacency is just a killer in my mind. Like complacency and autopilot, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're no longer living your purpose. You're just living. You're just here. You're just there. Like, what are you doing? What is it that you want to do? Does that feel good to you when you really sit down and think about your life, and if you're in autopilot or if you take the actions? If you're sitting in autopilot and you're getting upset, maybe even like feeling bad about like what I'm saying, if it's starting to resonate with you, because I've been there. I've been in that position of like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm sitting here, I need to do something with it because it's scary. And I'm not saying you're wrong by doing that. I'm just saying, just think about, is this the quality of life that you want? Is this the quality of life that you expect? Is this the quality of life that you think you deserve? Because I'm here to tell you, you deserve whatever it is that you want. We all do. We all innately deserve everything that is here for us, right? That's money, that's profession. There is nothing that holds you back except for you. So take the pivot and go. Make the small shifts. It doesn't need to be a big, giant turn. It can be a small little angle and a little movement, okay? You can start small and get bigger because it's overwhelming. It can, like I said, it's scary. I think that's like my favorite word. It's scary, right? Okay. So maybe one day I'll get better at this speaking thing. I hope you're following. I hope this is making sense. I hope it's resonating. And, to get back to pivoting and how it can feel like quitting, it's not flaky, it's not inconsistent. And staying the same out of fear is just so much more damaging than changing courses. And that's that complacency. That if fear is what keeps you from doing what you want to do, are you going to reflect back on your life one day and regret all the things you didn't go after because fear stood in your way? And maybe that's something you want to sit with, maybe journal about, meditate over, and really get to know yourself a little deeper in that aspect. If one day you wake up, you're 80 and 90 years old, and you look back at your life and you think about all the things you didn't do out of fear, how are you going to feel in that moment? How are you going to feel in that moment 10 years from now when you think, I should have been doing this already. I could have done that already, I've had a lot of that thought myself. Like, if I started a year ago, I could have been way ahead. If this, if that. And what I'm realizing is, if I had this a year ago, if I got my builder's license a year ago, I might not have been ready for it. And I might not have been ready to start this business 3 years ago or 5 years ago. My growth and my mindset and what I know today is so much different just from a year ago, from 6 months ago. And when we think about how much things change in a very short amount of time and then how much change happens in a big amount of time, it just really puts things in perspective. And so you can get caught up in the what ifs, the should haves, and, what if this happened earlier? But what does that do for you? Does that help you? And maybe if it's a motivator for you to really get going and be like, no, I see where I could have done this. I had this idea a year ago, and now I have a better clarity or better vision for it, and I'm going to run with it. I mean, take it as whatever it comes to you. But if you're sitting in it and you're dwelling in it and you're starting to feel resentful, take a pause and think about if you were ready for it then. And if you were and you didn't jump on it, that's okay. You're here and you're recognizing it now. So, what does that mean for you today? And we don't need to live in the past. The past doesn't exist anymore. It's happened, it's gone, and you're here right now. So, what are you going to do about it today? Are you going to pivot? Are you going to do a small pivot? Are you going to do a big pivot? It's your life. It's your only life you got. So what are you going to do with it? I want to bring this back to our homes too, because I think I pretty much driven home how pivoting in your life can keep you stagnant, or not. I mean, the lack of pivoting can keep you stagnant in your life. But let's also look at how your home reflects you. So you make the changes, you make the shifts in your life. What's happening in your home then? Is your home staying in this past version of you? Is it reflecting who you used to be, or is it also pivoting with you? And again, that doesn't mean you need to go and like take everything out and replace everything, but what are these small things that you can change? Is something that's been on your shelf forever no longer as important to you as it was once before? That doesn't mean you don't respect it or care for it anymore, but if it's something that no longer speaks to you now, it is okay. This is your permission to be appreciative of it, thank it for the years that it did bring you the joy, and say goodbye to it and let it go. And you can do this through your life. And then, for me specifically, a long, for a while, I was only picking furniture that I could afford that's like right now, right? And so now as I start putting new furniture in my house and picking new things, I really get intentional about what it is that I'm bringing into my home. I really focus on the quality. I focus on the where it's coming from, who it's coming from, like if it's real wood versus like MDF board, and knowing how it's going to hold up over time. I find it's really hard to find that stuff in like big box stores, like a real full all wood furniture. You have to go a little higher end. But if it's a little higher end and it's more aligned with the type of materials that I want in my home, then I think it's worth doing that. And it's come over time when I've recognized what's more important to me, the quality versus the money. And money is something, that I'm still working on, but I try to focus on it as the energy of it coming in and going out. Whereas my life is my life, and this is the only thing this is it, right? My life is all I have. It is a finite thing. So when I bring things in my home, I do it with much more intention than I used to do. And that I think starts to show as you see the shift in my home from who I used to be and who I am now, and then where I'm going. Because for me, when I make these choices, I don't just think about right now and who I am, I think about who I aim to be and who I destined to be, right? I'm always looking to be a better version of myself. So sometimes I ask that question, would my future self be proud of this choice? Would my future self be happy or feel good about this choice? And, I also ask myself now, is this something that feels right, feels good? So then when my future self does look back and says, this felt right at that time, it's no longer serving me. And that's how I just try to choose and move forward in my life and in my home and making those decisions. And even with the, like clothes shopping, I do the same thing. I try to make sure that I feel really connected with something before I just buy it. I used to just go out and be like, this is a great sale. This is something I might wear. I'm going to buy it. I don't do that anymore. I go out with more intention of what I want and what I purchase. And I think that's something that's really powerful because it shows that what I'm bringing into my house then was chosen very specifically. What I'm wearing was chosen specifically. And when I'm showing up and spending my time with people or with my family, I'm doing it intentionally. And these were all ways that I have grown. And it's a value that I hold really deep, and I find that to be true in how we should show up in our homes. So it should be an intentional design. It should be an intentional look for who we are and what we value. And we might all have different values and intentions, and that is beautiful. And there is no right or wrong way for that, right? But either way, it should reflect your intentions. That is truly what I believe. It should reflect who you are, your values. And so when it comes to showing up, be intentional. And when we make the changes, when we make those pivots, they're intentional, right? We're not doing this on a whim. This isn't just something that comes to us quickly and it's an emotional decision. We are sitting and we're thinking and we are pivoting with a intention. That's also something that's super important. If you're making these choices and they're happening and you're changing based off of a quick emotional response, I would argue that maybe that's more autopilot than you realize. So autopilot doesn't mean that it's just stagnant and just kind of moving slowly. Autopilot might also mean I have a response to something, I don't like it anymore, I'm changing it without understanding why. So the pivot and the alignment that comes with it after the growth is always with intention and understanding of at least mostly why you're doing it, or having a better understanding if it's something that's just not sitting right with you. So you might not have the exact why, that might not come clear till later, but you at least are sitting with it and you're understanding why you're not staying or why you're making this move. It could easily just be, this no longer feels right to me. I think this is going to be the route for me. So when you are finding these signs of when it's time to pivot, it's when you are feeling like a low level of resentment towards what you're doing, or friction in your routines. So, you're getting to work every day and you're getting anxious and you're driving and you're starting to feel like this isn't feeling good anymore. That right there would be a sign for me, at least, that something needs to change. That doesn't mean it means you quit your job and find something else. It could mean a conversation. It could mean that maybe you're not happy with the role you're playing in your company. So, I want to be very clear when I say your pivot and change when you're not happy in a position doesn't mean you need to quit your job and find something else. That might be what your pivot is, but your pivot could also be something where you just need to have a conversation with somebody, or you need to have a conversation about your salary, or maybe you need to have a conversation about what role you're playing in the company that you're working for. So when you're starting to feel like a low level resentment, you're feeling that friction, pause and try to figure out exactly where you're feeling that, what's happening, when you're feeling it, and get there in that moment. Okay, so that's, it's not always easy. It's not always to be when you're in that moment of feeling it, it's not always easy to identify it, but maybe when you get home or later on that day, you can really just sit and reflect. And this could be another really great journal prompt. Sit with how you're feeling after the end of the day. Today, this is what happened. This was what my day was. Let me reflect a little bit on it and how I felt, how I showed up. Was I intentional? And then you can kind of start seeing this pattern of where things aren't lining up for you in the way that makes the most sense for you. And then how you might see yourself pivoting and changing course a little bit. So things you can continue to do besides the journaling and reflecting at the end of your day. You can also journal about what it is that you're ready to release. Maybe you don't feel that friction. Maybe you don't recognize it. So maybe just sit down and figure out, what am I ready to release? Where am I pretending that something still fits? This one's hard. This one, we're very good at lying and tricking ourselves in our minds. I think our bodies tell us very, very clearly what it is that we're not happy with or what's not working, but it's very easy for our minds to over talk the feelings. So try to get out of the head, try to get into the body and feel those things. The first thing that pops in your head when you start thinking about what it is that I'm pretending still fits, write it down. It might not be true, but if it's the first thing you think of, just do it without thinking. Just write it out. The first thing that pops up in your head, write it down. And then reflect on that and really dive into it, because maybe, again, it's just something as simple as a conversation and that's all you need to do. But don't judge it. Don't get scared of what it means when that thing pops up in your head. Just allow it to be what it is and reflect on it further and just be open with it. Think about your home and do like a little home audit and see if your space is supporting you where you are right now. And then think about ways that it can support you further. And one small pivot that you can do is just choose one room or one little corner in your house and reimagine it in like this symbolic shift of who you are now. So can you take a little space and just make it more of you? I mean, literally, it could be a shelf and you put a few things that are representing you right now where you are. And how does it compare to the rest of your home? Is there a change? Do you see a big drastic shift from who you were and who you are? Or does your home just really align with you right now? I mean, again, I would love to hear about this. There's no right or wrong. I just want you to think and have this be a thought-provoking conversation that you can have with others, with yourself, with me. I would love to have the conversation with you as well. And I just also want to drive home that pivoting, it shows growth. Pivoting, it does not mean you're flaky. It doesn't mean you're a professional job hopper. It means change and growth. It means you are choosing alignment over autopilot. So I hope this resonated with you today. If it did, and you think somebody else could really benefit from this, please share it with them. Also, if you want to leave a review, it helps me be found on all the media's platforms that you're using to listen or watch this podcast. So reviews are always very helpful. You can also message me directly and find me on social media at Hello Katie Go and reach out to me directly. Love to chat more with how this resonated with you. If you had thoughts around this, if it scares you a little bit, I want to hear about it. So please like and share and review, and keep an eye out. The best place to find me is on Instagram. It's where I'm the most active. I'll be having some more content out like this. So if this was helpful for you, I will be launching some new programs coming up. Primarily, it'll be around blueprints of your life, and it's going to look a little different, but it's going to be something that works for you as a homeowner and what's customizable for you. So, this custom built life is all around who you are, what you're doing, what you want to create. So why not have a program that is also customizable, custom to what you need? So thanks for listening to me go on and trip over my words again this week. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. And I will catch you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for hanging out today. If you liked what you heard, please make sure you hit subscribe. And I hope to see you again next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.